Udyr jungle is currently completely breaking the game. Not only does he have an assassin-like burst, more utility than any champion should ever be allowed to have, and an overloaded kit that makes him literally unkillable. It's also managed to get me to Challenger, so listen up, as today, we're making you an Udyr pro. These are the runes, let's get right into it. Level 1, you should always try to think how your lanes will play out. Do you have any lanes that are incredibly easy to gank? Do you have any lanes that need to be covered?
Play safe, top lane.
And what does the enemy jungler want to do? But if you're unsure what lane to gank, I recommend just starting raptors. Not only does it make you safe from invade, it also makes your raptor camp spawn faster, meaning you don't have to recall after you clear your camp. Instead, you just stay, take your raptors, take your krugs, and now you're way ahead of the enemy jungler. But we need to have an impact. It's time to gank. So here is how to gank like a Udyr pro. Number 1, hug the wall, avoid vision, avoid minions, and make sure you're running to where the enemy is going, not where they are. Which is what makes lane ganking so incredibly broken on Udyr, as not only can you sneak into the lane, even if they do see you, you just ghost them down and they have no counterplay. Number 3, avoid using Awakened E unless you absolutely have to. This is a great spell in a lot of situations as you can dodge CC, but you will notice you will be strongly lacking damage. Just run up to them, drop your Awakened R, drop your Awakened Q if you're isolated, and watch them melt. And at this point, you probably already have a kill. But if you don't, no worries. Just take your raptors, take your krugs, and reset, and you're already way ahead of the enemy jungler. You've just learned to gank like a Udyr pro. Now it's time to play like one. Your goal now is simple. Keep up your farm and don't stress about it. You're one of the strongest late game champions in the game, so focusing on yourself is an absolute priority. Number 2, securing objectives is incredibly important, just like securing validation from online strangers. So if you enjoyed the video so far, go and one-shot that subscribe button. While in some games, drakes are incredibly broken, especially if you have like Kale casted in and you want to stall the game, I will be very careful about taking the first one, as the amount of time you spend on taking the Drake could have been spent on full clearing your jungle and gotten you way further ahead. And luckily, one of the best parts about Udyr is you can farm and gank at the same time without losing too much tempo. You don't want to end up as this guy. But to help you better understand when you should gank and when you should farm, I think we should listen to the ranked 1 solo queue jungler Agurin.
Simple math. If you have 20% chance that the gank is successful, 20% chance to get 300 gold. How much gold will you get from the play? 100 gold. Over 1,000 games, you will get every single time 100 gold. Because 3 out of 10 times it works. So it's not a good play, because you got 100 gold. But if you farm 2 camps, you have 200 gold. So over 1,000 games, it's just better to farm.
And this is where the fun starts. By this time, the enemy support has started to roam, so the entire rift is a war zone. But luckily, I brought some tips from my favorite book, the Geneva Convention, to help you out. Number 1, use your isolated Q to surprise the enemy and win any skirmish or invade. Number 2, don't underestimate your Awakened W. This is one of the best abilities in the game, as it will make you literally unable to die as you get the biggest shield and healing. Send your R out like a projectile to make sure your ganks, your dives, whatever you're doing, works out with no risk.
An ally has been slain.
Now, this is probably a sound you're used to hearing as a jungler, but let me explain how you can prevent it. If your team is freezing, it means the enemy will have to push it out or they just lose the game over time. This means you can gank for free, even if the enemy knows you are there, the enemy still needs to make a move and they are checkmated. But on the counterpoint, if the enemy is freezing, your teammates have to do something. And now, you will have to help them push it out. You will sometimes have to just go with them in the lane, push, show yourself on the map, because this is the only way the game moves forward without your teammates dying and losing the game slowly. And if you have them push out, you actually have so many more options now. You can get your teams to help you do Drake, or you can set up the easiest dive in the world. And my favorite thing, you just repeat dive. Like, they have to go back to their turret, which means they will be left out in the open, so you can most likely just kill their bot lane over and over, especially if you combine it with the most important tip. Always be hitting. If you notice in this clip, even before the fight started, I was hitting the blue and Gromp to get my passive up, and during the fight itself, I was actually hitting the Gromp to make sure my passive came up so I can actually win it. So, you have the lead, you have ganked successfully. How do you snowball from it? How do you win the game? Your main focus should always be to get turrets. Help your laners take turrets so you can enable them to play the map and get a huge amount of gold in the process. Now, let's get back to the late game. You are now the strongest champion in the game. And just like in my college days, you can easily take 4, maybe 5 guys at once. And if you follow the rest of the tips, you will get your sweet LP in no time. time. Number 1, focus on XP. XP in the late game is way stronger than in the early game because your passive's cooldown scales exponentially. Though it only goes down every 5th level, so your level 16 spike is actually the strongest you will ever be. So if you get your level, you can actually use your passive 2 or 3 times in one fight. Number 2, you're strong now. You don't have to farm that much anymore. Focus on being with your team and make sure they can't in. Get objectives and get the sweet win. Wait, what is that? What is that? AD Udyr. Before we get to my favorite segment, here are some quick tips I didn't know where to place. Free up your mid lane so he's able to play the map with you. So make sure you help him push in the wave, give him the attention he needs. He will love you and he will join you for that beautiful 4-man bot gank.
I love you.
I highly recommend starting the time summoners. This is incredibly broken for you and your teammates, and it's quite simple. Here are some AP Udyr matchups. Let's get right into AD. AD Udyr is finally relevant, and it's finally better than AP Udyr in some situations. This is a strat breaker build. This build is way too broken, as not only do you become tanky as fuck, you one-shot most enemies and have the most mobility in the game, as the strat breaker active gives you 25% movement speed per enemy hit, meaning you just run around the map causing war cramps, giving the enemies no counterplay. But you know me, I'm a psychopath. We're not just going stratbreaker, we're going stratbreaker into lethality.
We don't know where Udyr is. You need to get. What is this? Why is he taking? Why is he playing lethality, Udyr? That is fuck.
With this build, you have the most movement speed of any champion in the game. So just like Dr. Disrespect at an outdoor playground, your goal is to be in every bush.
Honestly, no matter what happens, this game is FF.
And with Yumo's end opportunity, if you get a kill, you can just run out, get to safety, and get your passive up. All your damage lies in your awaken Q, don't try to fight without it. And not only is this the most fun build in the game, it also is the one that commits the most war crimes and gets in the enemy's head.
That's FF, that's FF, that's FF, that's FF.
So Lethality Udyr, incredibly strong early, very cheap items, and it can make you come back from any situation, as if you get one good pick, you just win the game. And if you're not convinced yet, here's a final statement from Agurin.
I think Udyr actually, fuck this guy.